What is up, everybody? I am going to get a picture up here of Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively because I have discovered, I think, that it really does help to sell my live streams when people are coming in and out if they see a picture of something they're interested in. So I don't think actually we're gonna start with Baldoni and Lively, but for the moment, while we're getting situated, bring this up. Look, let me just be honest with y'all about the fact that from here on for a while, oh, let me make my picture bigger though so you can see me. From here on for a while, the vast majority of my videos are going to be linked to Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni in some way. Even if, as is the case today, I really have a lot of other things that I'm going to talk about. But this is what's selling on the algorithm. We're definitely in a Johnny Depp Amber Heard situation here where it's funny. Anytime I would do in the lead up to that trial, the year or so that I was on YouTube, lead up to that trial and during the trial and afterward for a while, even today, I know that if I put out a video on Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard, it's going to, or it could just be on Amber Heard and how horrible she is. It's going to do really well, or it's going to do better than other videos. And so, there was a whole year there between when I started my YouTube channel and when the Depp versus Heard trial started, where I covered almost nothing but Marilyn Manson stuff, because almost as soon as I started my YouTube channel, then that's when the Manson Me Too hoax kicked up. And I just became more interested in that, partly because the Depp versus Heard stuff was being so covered by so many people, not in the mainstream media level, but on the level of content creators. But anyway, and nobody was really covering the Manson thing. And I saw it was such a giant Me Too hoax, or very soon came to see it was a giant Me Too hoax. So there was a year there. My point is, there was a year there where I was covering almost exclusively the Marilyn Manson Me Too hoax, and more or less ignoring the Johnny Depp Amber Heard thing until the trial started. And if I had been focused just on views or clicks, so to speak, I would have not done that, because the Depp versus Heard stuff gets so many more views, and it always has. Well, that's kind of the way things are now, shaping up to be with Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni, which is another reason why I've been saying it's so metaphorically suicidal what Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds are doing, because this thing just has a tremendous amount of interest, and interest will wane to some extent in the interim as people learn about this, but then get tired of hearing about it and whatever. But that happened with the Depp versus Heard stuff. Interest would wax and wane. But as it got closer to the trial, and then as we got into the trial, it just became an absolute, as you remember, if you were paying attention, feeding frenzy. And so what's going to happen is a number of content creators like me who have jumped into the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni thing, we're going to more or less be in a kind of a holding pattern, hovering over this thing and putting out content about it as it moves along until it eventually reaches some kind of a conclusion, which I still think, if Blake Lively has any sense about her, will be a settlement. But you never know. I mean, she just hired the CIA dude. So whatever. Does it seem like she's ready to step down? Does it seem like Blake Lively has seen any kind of light about this whole situation? So no, it seems like she is gearing up to escalate this fight. So I don't see her stepping down and offering any kind of a settlement that would be acceptable to Brian Friedman or Justin Baldoni or Steve Sarowitz, more importantly here, because, I mean, Baldoni Friedman has already signaled that they are going to require some kind of an apology and an admission that Justin Baldoni is not and never has been a harasser or sexual predator or any of this. So, I mean, because Brian Friedman, his attorney, came out and flat out said that, like, he's been called a sexual predator. Justin's been called a sexual predator. So, any kind of settlement has to address that, basically. So I don't see them with things as they stand right now, the indicators that we have, I don't see them settling, but maybe at some point, Blake Lively becomes a little bit smarter or more realistic about this. I don't know. But my point is that I learned in the aftermath of the Depp versus Heard trial, I learned that if I wanted my videos to do well, I had to find, even if they didn't really have much to do with Depp versus Heard, I had to find some way to attach them to that thematically or to draw a line through that. And so I remember one time to get more views. And so I remember one time, for instance, I wanted to do a philosophy video. And it was a video about how we measure the meaning of our lives. And it was, I talked about Viktor Frankl and people like that, right? But I knew that if I could somehow weave Amber Heard into it, then it would get like, 6 times more views, maybe more, right? Because of the nature of the algorithm and the nature of what you all apparently want. And so I remember I found some way to thematically tie Amber Heard into this very sort of abstract philosophy lesson. And I did. And then I found an excuse to talk about her just enough to kind of satisfy people who would come there for Amber Heard coverage. And then I put a picture of her on the thumbnail and I had a title with Amber Heard in it. And it got way more views than my other philosophy videos because I did that. It's still up. It's called Amber, the Past is Not a Trash Can. Isn't that a strange title? But if you actually watch the video, you will see how I managed all that. But that's funny. So anyway, my point is I want to talk about, I do have some things to say about wrapping up this week with Blake Lively and Baldoni and then looking ahead to next week. But I do want to hit on some other things right now. So yeah, I guess if I want to say a little bit about Blake Lively's stuff, and I'll come back to it at the end, maybe that's the best way to do it. I'm still hung up on this Freakonomics thing. I don't know. I posted something about it on Twitter, and some people were responding or liking it or whatever. But I don't know what. It just bugs me. It's beyond the fact that I was lucky enough to get that Ari Emanuel audio, so I'm already interested in the situation, right? No, from the moment that I heard, and hold on, I'm shaking this thing, just a second. From the moment, never mind, I was going to go to the Freakonomics podcast, but we'll do that in a second. I just want to say this. From the moment several days ago that I heard that, because I had not been paying attention, I knew that the Ari Emanuel interview podcast was going to come out on Freakonomics. I had even gone to their site a couple of weeks ago to look for it and said, no, this is an upcoming episode. And so I knew that it was going to be coming out. And so I inquired about it. It just kind of popped into my head a few days ago because I realized, oh wait, that was like 2 weeks ago when those remarks by Ari Emanuel were reported by witnesses who were there. And then of course got printed up in the Hollywood Reporter, etc. And I thought, wait, that was like almost 2 weeks ago or something. And we haven't heard anything since then. And so I asked about it online, mentioned it, and someone told me, oh yeah, Freakonomics, like 6 days ago, they put out a short video explaining what happened to the episode, and it's lost and it's never coming out. It was never recorded. And I was just like, what the fuck? Because not that these things can't happen or don't happen. I have, in 4 years of doing YouTube, I've had one instance of all the collaborations and stuff that I've done. I've had one instance where I flat out forgot to record it. So to say that it can't happen, of course it can happen. But like even the host of Freakonomics, when he did this video explaining the mishap, which went on and on and on, he even said, I've never in all of my years he was talking about a guitarist or a guitar tech or this or that, or these other media jobs that he's had, and as a performer and a musician and all of this, he says, I've never once had a situation like this where someone on a professional level just didn't record something. And what's crazy too, y'all, is that this was not just Ari Emanuel that they didn't record. This was an entire evening's worth of entertainment. This was a special Freakonomics episode. It was a live taping. It was an entire evening's worth of entertainment featuring also some famous musician or semi-famous musician or whatever, I'm blanking, who was interviewed and did a performance as a part of this. So there were like other people being interviewed aside from Ari Emanuel, and there was like a whole performance going on that was supposed to be videotaped. And this was a big venue. I forget the name of it, but it was a big venue on Wilshire that's used to doing all kinds of big entertainment stuff, this sort of shit. And so it just seems like really? Really? You didn't record it and you didn't like check that? Because now, the way that I am now, I very quickly learned with this like comparatively nothing YouTube operation that I've got going on, that you check and double check if it's recording or not. Like, you learn very quickly not to be making those rookie mistakes because they're so painful and they suck so much when you do. And they're so embarrassing to have to explain to someone, oh, I didn't get our interview. And so it's just, and I had somebody on Twitter, this was what I was actually also wanted to show you here. I'm going to go to my Twitter, go to my Twitter because I want to show you this comment. This was a comment, not, oh, hello, Ari Jacob, looking good. This is a comment. She is very beautiful. No one can deny that. Okay. This is a comment that someone left under, not my video, not any of my videos, but someone left this comment underneath the Freakonomics video, the video that they put out like 7 days ago now, where the host laughingly and seemingly very genuinely, and he seemed perplexed himself, explained this whole scenario whereby this thing was not recorded. But this was a comment underneath, and it just kind of got me stoked again today, because I wasn't even going to talk about this because I felt like I probably paid too much attention to it. And what do I really know? And I can't prove that something shady happened. Then I saw this comment, and it got me stoked again. Quote, life is funny. Okay, that's quoting the host of this Freakonomics podcast, who was explaining what happened and said something to that effect, like, life is funny. All right, give me a break. As a former theater stage manager and techie, I can tell you that there is absolutely no way that the person involved with recording the sound for the Ari Emanuel interview would not have been checking and rechecking that the recording of this live event was happening. I've always known that Freakonomics is a bogus brand. Okay, well, I don't know about all that, but next sentence. This is not a brand. Next sentence. Do not trust them. No. Okay, they got cooked by Ari Emanuel, Hollywood, and shamelessly threw their techies under the bus. Are you telling me that there was not a backup recording being made for just such an occurrence as this described in this video? The brand relies on access journalism. If any of you are thinking that this does not add up, listen to your gut. It doesn't add up. What a load of bollocks. And so I read that. And I was like, oh, because it got me going again, dude. It got me going again. And it's not like this is like super, super important in and of itself, right? I mean, look, there are people dying all over the world in horrible ways and terrible things happening to people and cancer and everything. So I'm not trying to say that this is like a 5-alarm fire that Ari Emanuel might have paid or threatened or influenced someone to do away with this recording. But I am just saying, like, it just bugs me. It bugs me. And I think here's the reason why, and I said this the other day, this is part of the reason why it bugs me too, is that I remember as soon as, and I've said this, I remember as soon as I read Ari Emanuel's remarks as reported in the Hollywood Reporter, as soon as I read them, I thought, oh my God, I cannot believe that he said this shit. There is no way this recording is ever going to get out. Something's going to happen. They're going to lose this. They're going to say they've lost it. They're going to make up some, I don't even know. This thing ain't coming out. And I thought that, like, I said that to myself immediately. And I was even kind of like with myself sort of taking a bet in my mind as to like, what do I think are the odds that we actually end up seeing this thing or hearing this thing? So I think that was because, I think the fact that I already had been expecting it, that when it actually happened, it was just like, oh my God, it's so predictable. It's so predictable. I don't know. And I know, look, and I'll say this too. I know there were, not crying over the lost footage. I have allergies. I'm not saying that, I know that there were multiple technical mishaps that day, because they had an issue initially at that venue, even getting the PA system to work. And so they didn't even know that they were going to be able to have the things mic'd up correctly. The thing, and the host talked about that in the video. The thing is, though, it seems like that was a completely separate issue. Like, according to the host narrative on this, yes, they had the PA issue initially at the venue, but then that was solved, which is why they were then able to continue with the show and everything. You could hear in the audio that I put out that he was mic'd. And so I'm like, it's weird to me to even kind of I understand they're conflating the two things, because what they're trying to say is, look, there was a lot of stress around the technical stuff and we were already having technical issues that day. But also, to me, it's kind of conflating. It's sort of obfuscating in a way the fact that, okay, but still somebody just couldn't record this thing. I don't know. I'm sure there's technical stuff that could have gone wrong that I'm not understanding. I'm sure it's not just a matter, if it was a legitimate error, it's not just a matter of someone literally just didn't push record or click record, that there was some other kind of breakdown or something. So I don't know. But here's what I would say to Freakonomics. I think that given how much backlash you're getting about this, and I see it, if we go look at your video, you'll see that there are lots of comments of people who are irate and people aren't buying it. I think given how this story has exploded and the negative perception now that you've created about yourself and your show and maybe even your host, if this really was a mishap, I think it would be interesting, since you already put out like a 10-minute video where you tell this, cute little anecdote about these mishaps. I think it'd be interesting to issue a follow-up, say 5 to 10-minute video where you actually specifically explain what technical mishaps led to this not being recorded. Because I think that would be kind of interesting to know. Oh, last week I mentioned that my editor came to me and said they didn't record it. And I was like, wow, that's never happened to me before. We need a little more explanation than that, I think, sir, given what is actually on the line here in terms of, well, potentially hundreds of millions of dollars in this legal fight. So that's what I would say to Freakonomics. If it really was an honest error, surely your people did a little bit more sleuthing around and you came up with an explanation, if nothing else, for the future, so this doesn't happen again, an explanation for what exactly was the breakdown there. I think that would be really helpful. And once you provide that, I'm happy to talk about it. So anyway, that is my thought. What are people saying about the sound? Have to get a better mic, AirPods. Well, yeah, I know, Esther. People keep telling me that, and I keep getting different mics, and I keep having sound issues. But I will tell you also, StreamYard is generally not very good either, and that could be part of the problem too. Because I looked at the podcast that I did the other day where I went on Zach's show, and the sound wasn't coming across really great there either. I mean, for even the other host. And that was StreamYard too. So I don't know, because videos that I've shot before not using StreamYard, seems like the mic quality is better. And so there's probably something that I could do to fix all of that. But this, here we come to, honestly, just one of my major limitations as a podcaster. I absolutely hate this stuff. And I am sharing this space with someone who does music and has all of this stuff hooked up that I couldn't even begin to explain to you sort of what's going on here with all of this. And there's like a soundboard here and stuff. And I just don't, it's difficult when you're sharing the space too with someone who bought this equipment and is trying to do serious like musical stuff with it, to then get in here and start asking him to figure out what's going on here, whatever. I will say that I had someone approach me a month ago, and someone who is a pretty successful businessman and is interested in getting more into podcasting. And he told me that he would be willing to actually come to my house with a team, not a team like crazy something, but him and another guy who really know technical stuff, to come in here and hook me up with some stuff and get it actually like how it's supposed to be, right? The only problem is that guy who was super enthusiastic about it early on hasn't mentioned anything about it since. And every now and then it'll come up and I'll ask him and he'll say, oh yeah, I'm thinking about as soon as my friend gets back into town, March, whatever. But what I have found in this business so far is that we all make a lot of like promises, and then oftentimes that falls away because people are just too busy. But my point with this is I am aware of this as the major limitation that I have with the technical setup. And I am behind the scenes working on it to the degree that I can. But also, it's just hard as hell to keep this ship going and to have another job and to have like a real life outside of this. And here's the thing that I'll say to a lot of you who may be wanting to start doing YouTube or social media is that you really have to make peace with imperfection, and the fact that until you get to where you want to be, you're going to have to put up with the annoyance of imperfection a lot. And so, and like, there's just a light that went out. So like, I started doing these videos 4 years ago in a really ugly room. I used to sit in front of this really ugly door and just didn't even have any kind of a mic and just like an iPhone camera. And that's how I started doing it. And that is probably, you know, it was the worst possible quality one could imagine. But I decided if I wait until I've got everything set, I'll never do this. So I've just got to start doing it. And so what I've been trying to do, I don't know if you followed my stuff very long, but over the last 4 years, I have tried to transition myself from something where this thing is just totally a hobby. Just who is this girl just, you know, here with her phone, her camera, you know, yapping about stuff, to something that does look and feel more professional. But I am, when it comes to technical stuff, I'm basically fucking retarded. I really am. And I hate it. It's the part of things that I dislike the most about all of this. So my point to you is, I feel the way that you feel, and I am working on it, but it's difficult when one is still basically in the hobby bracket in terms of one's income and in terms of one's life. It's really difficult to make that final Hillary step into a more professional setup. The other thing I'll say is, you may just not like my voice either. Because if you go watch me on Tim Pool, the mic is better, the sound is better, but it still pretty much sounds like this. So, you know, it is the voice I was born with, and I think it's probably only less annoying than RFK Jr.'s voice. Anyway, that's my explanation. That's what I have to say. It doesn't really solve any of the issues, but it is it's only to say I am aware and I'm working on it. But anyways, I appreciate your recommendation, though. We'll look into it, what you've mentioned there. Dan Campbell says, it's not only podcasting. If you teach a fitness class like aerobics or Tai Chi, without a check, it's completely meaningless when students express excitement about wanting to learn and practice. Sorry, I missed your meeting though, I think, but it's good to see you, Dan. What's up? Without a check, it's completely meaningless when students express, are you talking about check like payment? Anyway, I think I get what you're saying. I don't know, but it's good to see you all. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about Cuomo, because, and some of you are like, Cuomo, what the fuck? What I love about this topic when I bring up Cuomo is that it is something that makes me extremely unpopular to multiple people on all sides. So so it's really kind of it's really like the one of the most self-destructive things that I can do actually is to talk about this, because in terms of what I was talking about, likes and views, when I get into this, my friends on the right, they're like, oh, because they can't stand Cuomo. And then my friends on the left, not all of them, but actually a number of my friends on the left, for various other reasons, don't really like him either. And he has a couple of things in particular that have become attached to him over the past several years in a really dogged way that's sort of been hard for him to throw off. And one of them is the Me Too hoax, the giant Me Too hoax that was perpetuated against him, that I've addressed in my channel. And then the other is the nursing home thing. And so, and I'll say this, mods, we're talking about Cuomo, you can allow people to talk about politics here. In the nursing home thing, it's fine if they want to, but I don't want any ranting, because some people, I've found online, some people just get crazy on this topic when you bring up Cuomo, and then it just goes into this nonstop ranting about killing grandmothers. So, hold on a second. Let me look at Dan's comment. In other words, promises mean nothing, referring to your buddy. Well, yeah, no, that is true. This was someone though who had helped me. I should add more to that. Who had helped me in other ways in the past, and even had dated my sister. Long story there, but like someone that I know, like more in the real world too, as a dependable person. And so I'm not even sure that he's still not going to follow through. But the point is that sometimes, like when I'm trying to solve problems here in terms of this technical setup, it's a question too of like, who do I listen to? Yes, I could just go online on Twitter and say, tell me what tech to get. But it's a matter of then needing someone to hook this up, to troubleshoot, needing to integrate it to the musical stuff that my guy is doing, because it's going to cause me problems domestically here at home if I'm fucking around with the sound and I mess up something for what he and his band are trying to do. And so, all of these things that you don't understand. And why would you, not you, Dan, but the audience, when you're looking at me, because you see someone who seems to have her shit together. So I guess if I could just cut to the absolute core of your question, sir, of like, why don't I get a better audio setup? It's because I do not have my shit together. There we go. All right. So Cuomo, though. I feel for the guy, because even though I actually disagree with a ton of what he did in New York in relation to the COVID stuff, and I'm not talking about the nursing home story, which I think has been way overblown. I looked into that, and basically there was a ton of confusion at that time about how to handle all of this stuff. Nobody knew what they were doing, including President Trump, who flip-flopped a ton on things, and certainly including the more woke, more liberal politicians too, who just got crazed, extremely crazed and authoritarian. Nobody really knew what they were doing. And so to say, oh, Cuomo did this, he killed grannies, is as if Cuomo has some kind of a geriatric homicidal impulse and he just couldn't wait to get those senior citizens locked in those nursing homes so they could die of COVID. It's just really silly. I looked into it, and honestly, it's really hard to sort out if Cuomo even made a mistake there or what even really happened. But here's the problem, that people don't want to hear that. People want to rant and they want to rage. And my friends on the right want to be able to rage about how horrible that liberal he killed our grannies Cuomo is. And then people who are on the woke left want to rage and rant because they don't like Cuomo either, because actually Cuomo is a political moderate. And that is why ultimately he was taken down in that Me Too political hit. No, I'm not saying that the women who accused him were necessarily part of a political hit job, but I'm saying that what enabled that political Me Too hit job was also members of the government and the legal apparatus, like Letitia James, for example, and Kathy Hochul and some of these others, then taking these really what turned out to be unfounded, ridiculous allegations of some of these women and blowing them up and making them into more than they are so that they could take down Cuomo. So that is what happened. So I have a lot of the reason why I follow this or I care about this is because I have a lot of sympathy for a man who, even if you didn't like his policies, I really think tried to do at the time the best that he could. And a man who, for all of his years of public service, and we're talking about generational family service, going back to Mario Cuomo, one of the stars of the old Democratic Party, beloved by people on the left, right, but also by a number on the right. Generations here of an esteemed political family. And this guy gets taken down after decades of public service for something that turned out to be bullshit. It really does bother me, and I feel for him. And one reason why Cuomo didn't hit back harder at the time at these false accusers who were attacking him was because his own daughter had been sexually assaulted, and he was really sensitive to the idea of not wanting to appear that women should not be believed, or that he had just been through this thing with his daughter, and he didn't want, who felt that she had not been believed, and then he didn't want to then turn around and seem to promote that same ideology that had been so damaging to his daughter. So in that way, he was also really in a bind. And so I don't care about Cuomo at all, except, and certainly not politically, except that I do think that he was one of the biggest victims of a Me Too feeding frenzy and a Me Too conspiracy. And his accusers were just ridiculous. I mean, I did a 20-something minute video summarizing all of the reasons why I think he is innocent. And I just do not, I defy anyone. I know 23 minutes is a lot to ask people to watch, but I defy anyone to watch that video and then tell me with a straight face that they don't think this guy could be innocent. It's just absolutely, I mean, you've got his primary accuser. First of all, the only woman who actually accused him of real groping. We're talking about, she accused him of groping her breast. She could not get the date right for when this supposedly occurred. And it's not just a matter of did it occur on the Wednesday or the Thursday or the 1st or the 2nd. It's, well, it might have been I think it was in November. No, I think it was in early December. No, I think it was late December. No, I think it was early January, because every time she'd put out a date, it would get refuted by actual evidence. And so then she'd have to change the date. Also, if you watch her actual deposition, she gets completely tripped up by a question about whether she was wearing a coat or not and whether the coat was cinched. Because at one point she says, oh, I had my coat. It was cinched all the way up and I wouldn't take it off. He asked me if I wanted to take it off, but I didn't take it off. And the next thing you know, she's saying that he's groping her under her blouse. Well, then the person who's doing the deposition says, wait a minute, you just told me that your coat was big black coat, cinched all the way up. He asked you to take it off. You said, no, I don't want to take it off. I'm not going to be here that long. And now you're telling me that he managed to get his hand all the way up that cinched up dress underneath your blouse and grope your breast. You should have seen the look on this woman's face. I'll show it to you in a minute. We get to get a little further into things. I'll show you. She's just like, That's his biggest accuser there in terms of actual shit. So you take that one off the table. Then we've got Lizzie Boylan, who's really the ringleader of this whole thing. And I see her as like basically a kind of a Blake Lively, Evan Rachel Wood, Amber Heard type figure. She's still online ranting. You go follow her on X. She's ranting all day, every day about Cuomo and victims. She supports Amber Heard. She puts out a ton of pro Amber Heard, pro Blake Lively, I think, even tweets. Anyway, her big accusation is things like this. When he would shake your hand, he would take your whole hand in his big hand and he would like envelop your whole hand. I'm actually quoting word for word from her deposition right now. He would like envelop your hand with his whole hand. And it's really like a power play. So those were her allegations. So, you know, when people, what about the woman? Oh, never forget the flood victim who hired Gloria Allred to represent her and did a press conference in which she tearfully recounted her sexual harassment at the hands of Andrew Cuomo. And do you want to know what the story was? In front of media and government people and aides and assistants, he leaned over, touched her, and kissed her on the cheek. And she felt that she had been sexually assaulted in her own home. Wow. Wow. What a creep. What a predator. Of course, we also have Charlotte Bennett, who, by the way, when she was a student in college, was sued for, guess what, participating in a false sexual harassment claim. She was admitted on tape that she had lied, that this guy that she had accused of sexual assault had never assaulted her, admitted on tape. He sued the school. He sued the college. It was Hamilton College. He sued, and they settled for an undisclosed, I'm sure, huge amount. So this woman, who's already been credibly accused of lying about sexual assault and being a feminist activist fanatic, she piles on Cuomo. Charlotte Bennett, she piles on Cuomo. And do you want to know what her worst accusation is? He asked me about my hair. My hair was in a bun, and I just didn't know. I didn't know how to deal with that. I didn't know how to deal with it. And I just cried and ran. I'm actually not really paraphrasing her there either. That's pretty much what she said. So I want to show you, and if you're not interested in this, no worries. You go watch something else for about 10 minutes, come back. Or if you've seen this, whatever. I need to go get some coffee and stuff because I'm not animated enough. No, but I need to go get some coffee and stuff. But I really want you to see just a little bit of this. Now that I've set it up for you, I really want you to see a little of my Cuomo documentary because I am tired of so many people who like my stuff when it comes to Blake Lively or when it comes to Amber Heard, Evan Rachel Wood, just being like, what about the Cuomo thing? So watch a little of this, okay? Probably about 5-10 minutes. We'll see. I don't know. I want to get to, the craziest parts are at the beginning. in terms of like, okay, I see what's going on here. So I want to show you that, and then we'll come back. We'll wrap this up. We'll go on to the next thing. I want to talk about the Oscars. I want to talk a bit about the Zelensky thing, just a bit there. I found a little new information that I hadn't known before to clarify that encounter. And then we'll wind up with some Justin Baldoni stuff again. Oh, and the Epstein thing. The Epstein files scam, man. It was a fake out. You thought you were getting the Epstein files, but then, psych, you're not getting them. That's basically what happened there. All right, I'm going to go away. I'm going to put up this documentary. Watch it or not watch it, 5-10 minutes or whatever. I will be back, and we will continue. Oops. Okay. Like, I am back. No, I'm searching for it. Give me 1 second. Also, this is on Twitter too. But I have an entire Andrew Cuomo playlist. It's not nearly as long as my Johnny Depp, Amber Heard, or Marilyn Manson playlist, or my Baldoni versus Blake Lively playlist. But I do have like 10 videos. Okay, I'm gonna bring it up. 1 second. Okay. All right, here we go. I'll be back in a bit.
Contact. Eye contact. You made eye contact. What the fuck?
Thank you, everybody, for joining us at today's press conference. I'm Attorney Gloria Allred. And with me is Sherry Bill.
On Monday, May 28, 2017, Governor Cuomo planned a visit to our neighborhood to survey damages and have a press conference. He leaned down over me and kissed my cheek. I was holding my small dog in my arms, and I thought he was going to pet my dog, but instead he wedged his face between the dog and mine and kissed me on the other cheek. I felt as though he was coming on to me in my own home.
Photograph of Governor Cuomo inside of Sherry's home, holding her hand. So this is the photo of the governor kissing Sherry outside.
And I went up to the front to, because he was talking to people, and I wanted to say I was the new chief of staff. And that was the first interaction where it was too long, and it was kind of mystifying how much time he spent with me. And that was my...
How much time did he spend with you?
Not much. He does this weird handshake where he grasps. He has these massive hands, and he grasps both sides, which sounds like nothing, but it's a power thing. It's like he has these massive hands, and he's wrapping his hands around both sides of your hands. Like, why does he need to envelop me with his hands? It's gonna be ecstasy. This place was meant for me.
Another one was previously accused, credibly, of making false sexual harassment accusation in college.
The governor never sexually harassed Charlotte Bennett. But this is what Ms. Bennett said in her testimony about when she decided that the governor was sexually harassing her.
He went out of his way to comment on my hair, and this was in the fall of 2019. And this one hit me. This was very clear to me. And this was a moment in which I was like, that's sexual harassment. Meanwhile, I'm a mess because I'm working 2 jobs. I'm exhausted. I threw my hair into a bun in the morning. He just asked me, he just like commented on the fact that I had a bun. He's like, I don't know if he asked why I was wearing a bun or just said, your hair's in a bun, but he commented on my hair, and that was all I got from him. And he asked me why I put my hair in a bun today. And I was not prepared for that interaction. And I was like, wait, you don't like it? Kind of not looking for his approval, but like a what's wrong with my bun sort of attitude. Like, and I was like a little salty because I was just like actually very angry. And he's like, no. And then he starts like kind of leaving again. I was like, oh, you don't like my bun? And I'm like leaning over my cube. And then I stand up and I'm kind of addressing the other assistants at their cubes and being like, did you hear that? He doesn't like my bun. And I'm like kind of calling after him and he walks away. And then I was like kind of in a crying rage and just left work.
With all due respect, what the fuck are you talking about?
You know, what is still very dear to me is the activism that I engaged in at Hamilton College to change the environment on campus, which, you know, at that point was toxic as well.
Now, it turns out that back in 2017, a federal lawsuit accused Bennett of filing a false sexual misconduct accusation against a classmate at Hamilton College, something a guest on this show, Michael Tracy, alluded to during an appearance. The lawsuit alleged that Bennett filed the claim, quote, knowing it was false and knowing there was evidence of its falsity. The suit claimed there was even a recording in which Bennett admitted the man she accused did not harass her. The school settled the lawsuit on undisclosed terms. And yet, this information was nowhere to be found in coverage of the Cuomo scandal.
One woman was caught lying, one of the accusers.
Yep.
She said dates that have happened that they proved could not have happened. Somebody was on a rope line, said something happened, that they proved was a lie. Again, I'm sticking just to the factual ones.
Yeah.
Something happened in an elevator, and there was a witness, did not corroborate. One of them said, he harassed me in the office for years, but there were no corroborators on that.
Well, what Ms. Camiso said the very first time she was asked about this is that, and he has a new date. He says it's December 7th, 2020, but Sheriff Apple didn't do his homework. So we know the Attorney General's investigators didn't do their homework.
I remember going up to his office. I remember having my coat on. It was November. It was cold. I wasn't expecting to stay there long. You know, I think he said, why don't you take your coat off or something? And I said, well, I'm okay. Like, I'm going to go back to the office. I think I asked him, are you all set? Like, do you need anything else? And he said, no, that's it. And I said, okay, I'm going to go back to the office. So I remember him getting up and going around his desk. I remember him, coming around, and it was instantly like pulled me in, and I remember his hand just sliding right up my blouse. That's a large hand, and over my bra. This just went from 0 to 60 in 0.2 seconds. It was so fast.
So you said you went in, you had your coat on. What did your coat look like?
It was a black coat. It was a black, long winter coat.
And when you went in, were you zipped and belted up?
I believe that I think what I had done was I had taken it off when I sat down.
So at what point did you put it back on?
I believe when I stood up to leave. When I went to leave and stood back up, I just had put my coat back on, but I don't believe I zippered it.
And you pulled it back up before he came around and groped you. Is that right?
Yes, I definitely had my coat on me.
Lindsay Boylan is not credible.
At the time, I knew that there were a number of complaints against Lindsay from staff people, higher up staff people and subordinate staff people. And this was a constant theme. They were not about me. I knew she had issues with the staff. They had progressed to the level where there were formal complaints that went to the general counsel. And the general counsel interviewed her on these complaints. And they were much more serious than anything I had thought about. She walks out in the meeting, or she gets offended at the meeting. She left the meeting.
All right, so this is a good place to actually stop. So I think, I mean, look, y'all, those are the main accusers. That was it. That was it. And then he's telling you about the primary accuser here, or the ringleader, who is constantly out on Twitter supporting Amber Heard and Blake Lively types, and is freaking out currently that this guy is now running for mayor. But he was talking about the fact that he got tons of complaints, and she ended up being fired, not by him, but by whatever this council was, this New York council that was in charge of this situation, ended up being fired. I myself, when I was investigating this thing, I had numerous people off record and one willing to go on record. I got an interview with her, but it ended up being a pretty poor quality and really didn't add much of anything. But so I didn't end up using it. But she did tell me an interesting anecdote about how disliked Lindsay Boylan was by so many people because of her attitude problems. And so anyway, Lindsay Boylan accused, in addition to the hand thing that you just saw, where she was, oh, he grasped me. When he would shake my hands, he would grasp me with his whole hand. Oh my God, the horror. But Lindsay Boylan also accused him of suggesting, get this, she accused Andrew Cuomo of suggesting on an official flight, an official governor's flight that she and some other aides and stuff were on, that they play strip poker. Does that seem likely? Well, you may say, surely there were witnesses to this event. Well, there was one witness that she cited in particular, Howard Zelensky, and he worked for the state of New York and is I think the former boss also of Lindsay Boylan. And so anyway, she had said that he was present, and initially, get this, initially he refuted this story. He said, basically, I was there. This did not happen. I don't recall Andrew Cuomo, the governor, making a remark about strip poker, right? Well, what the government of New York found in its investigation of Andrew Cuomo, and this is in the files, and I talk about this in my documentary a little bit later on in the documentary, is that this Howard Zelensky guy ended up changing his story. Several days later, he refutes that story and says, well, the governor did do that, right? What changed between him saying the governor didn't do this, didn't suggest strip poker while I was present, to, yes, I concur with Ms. Boylan's story. The governor did mention strip poker. Well, what changed, and this is apparently what the investigation found, is that Lindsay Boylan sent him a message, like the equivalent of a WhatsApp message, using some other secret kind of app technology, messaging technology, right? And she sent him a message and said that she couldn't wait to destroy this is to the witness now, Howard Zelensky, she couldn't wait to destroy his fucking life. And she implied that she would, if he did not change his story, that she would come forward with something that would make him look very bad. Now, apparently, the rumor had been going around that she and Howard Zelensky had actually had an affair, an on-the-job affair, while she was working with or for him. So what it seems happened, if you piece together what's included in this investigation, in this report that the government did and then discounted, what seems clear is that Lindsay Boylan engaged in witness intimidation and threatened Howard Zelensky that if he did not change his story, she would ruin him by exposing an affair that they had had. So, y'all, this is like Blake Lively level behavior, Amber Heard, and Rachel Wood. They all function the same. I don't know how much more clearly to say it. This is a widespread pathology that certain people have. And so we can find it in politics, we can find it in Hollywood, entertainment industry, and other places. Some of these women who I think have borderline personality disorder, or histrionic personality disorder, the things that Amber Heard was apparently diagnosed with when she was in therapy. This is what they do. They come up with these paranoid or delusional fantasies, these lies, and then they seek to go about bullying other people to fall in line with and support those lies. Which brings me to then talking about Isabel Ferrer. I saw a video with her on TikTok with Blake Lively. And I bet some of you have probably seen this, but it's a video where they're going into the premiere, and here they are at the premiere. So it's a video where they're going in, she and Blake Lively are going into the premiere. Of course, as we know, Justin Baldoni was in the basement, sequestered in the basement with his friends and family. But in this video, she was dragging Isabel Ferrer along, like she was holding hands with her, like was kind of the way that she holds hands with Taylor Swift in this really performative way. Like, I want everyone to see that I'm holding hands with my bestie. It really is almost kind of a mark of, I think, like ownership or something, right? Say, this is mine. But she was doing the same thing with Isabel Ferrer, but she was actually dragging Isabel Ferrer along in this kind of pointlessly too. If you've seen the video, I don't have time to find it. It was on TikTok, but it just, the look on Isabel Ferrer's face and the way that, and her body language and everything, what comes across is that she was really kind of uncomfortable with this. You know, Blake Lively is like, hey, oh, and, you know, just like, kind of marching around with her, and Isabel Ferrer sort of like, you can see sort of being jerked along. It's just kind of like, you know. And then also, I don't know if some of you have talked about this or seen this discussed online, but I saw someone talking about the costuming here, or I should say the styling of what they wore on premiere night. And apparently, some of you have heard this, I'm sure. Apparently, Isabel Ferrer, there was another design that was floated or considered for her to wear, and it was a much more flattering design. It was much more, I mean, it was more beautiful, more feminine, more modern. It was just everything. I mean, this thing, no offense, maybe some of you like it, but to me, it looks like someone cut a curtain up in my mom's house, you know, not even like a really cool pattern, cut a curtain up and sewed it together and didn't really get good tailoring. And maybe she's trying to go for some kind of, they're trying to go for some kind of hippie boho thing, especially with all the bangles that she's wearing, but it just looks kind of blah. And then you see her next to Blake Lively. And Blake Lively, I know we may have differing opinions on how well she pulled off the Britney Spears butterfly dress, but look, one look is clearly way more glamorous than the other. And of course, Isabel Ferrer is gorgeous, and so she looks beautiful in that dress no matter what. But I'm just saying, it's very clear here. There's one that looks like a megawatt movie star in terms of the styling and the jewelry too. I mean, Blake Lively's not even wearing much jewelry, but she's got the bling on her hands. What's with just all the chunky bracelets that don't even match what Isabel Ferrer is wearing? It just, to me, it looks a little bit like sabotage of Isabel Ferrer to the benefit of Blake Lively, who can really shine. You know what this reminds me of, actually? I have only been a bridesmaid, thank God, twice in my life. Look, I'm not even married myself. When I was a little girl, I never dreamed about a wedding, never dreamed about a wedding dress, never dreamed about a wedding ring, any of that shit. Good for you all who love that shit. I do not. And so you can imagine that someone like me, who didn't even want to have a wedding of my own, when I go to other people's weddings, I'm just kind of like, okay, what's all this about? Well, I was in two weddings, one my cousin, and then one my best friend at the time. And with the best friend at the time, I was actually the maid of honor. So I remember one time she wanted me to go help her help her choose a wedding dress and shop. And of course, I hate that thing. I hate it about as much as I hate trying to deal with technology in this room. Get no pleasure out of shopping. And certainly not watching someone else shop. But it's like, whatever, this is part of my role. I'll do it. And so, but here's the thing. We were shopping for wedding dresses, for a wedding dress for her, for my best friend at the time, and wedding dress and bridesmaids dresses that I and the other bridesmaids would wear, right? So I remember basically the stylist or whoever was kind of helping her had narrowed it down to like 3 possibilities for the bridesmaids dresses that she wanted her to look at. And then there was like, I don't know, maybe like 5 or 6 wedding dresses. And so anyway, she looked at the wedding dresses and chose something that was pretty and whatever. Well, then when it came to the 3 bridesmaids dresses options, one of them just didn't work for various reasons. And so it was disqualified. So it came down to these 2. One of them was a beautiful, beautiful, deep red, just gorgeous dress. I put it on and I was like, wow. It was like movie star gorgeous dress. Looked great on me. Amazing. The other dress was this ugly brown. I mean, it was shiny at least. It wasn't like matte brown, but it was this ugly, shiny brown, kind of looked like if you just like tied a shiny brown trash bag around to your yourself. It was just very, I exaggerate the ugliness, but it was pretty ugly. And it was just blah. And it didn't do a damn thing for me or anyone else who put that fucking thing on. And the prices were about the same. Which one do you think she chose? Ain't no way in hell she was going to have us looking better than her, which I damn well tell you we would have if we had worn those red dresses. So anyway, that's like, this is the last time I'm doing this shit. I don't care who asked me to do it. I'm out. I don't believe in these things. I'm out. And of course, she ended up going through a divorce, and there was a lot of other complicated shit around it. Should never have gotten married in the first place. So what a waste of money all that was. Anyways, so that's kind of my feeling about this. Basically, it's like I'm the bride. If you're Blake Lively, you're like, I'm the bride, and I want all eyes on me, and I am threatened by you, younger, and I would say prettier, and yes, thinner. Not that I'm saying that should matter, but thinner version here. And she even played her in the film. So it's like a direct comparison too, right? Someone who's younger and prettier and thinner and actually plays you in the same movie, standing up against you. If you're an insecure person like Blake Lively, you do not want that person to be inviting negative comparisons. Like, oh, look how beautiful she is. And oh, Blake's gained a little weight or whatever, right? Which again, I'm not. I think Blake Lively is beautiful. She's way more beautiful than I'll ever be. Okay. Not saying she's ugly or fat. I'm just saying, though, I'm talking about her psychology, the psychology of someone like this who is petty and who is insecure and who then punishes people around them for it. And she punished Isabel Ferrar by making her wear that curtain dress with those tacky looking bracelets stacked on each other. That's all I'm saying. All right, really quick, because I do have to go, to work in a little while. I need to get something to eat, et cetera, et cetera. Y'all have lives to live, weddings to go to. See, y'all, I'm not gender conforming either. That's the thing. I have some angry trans fans occasionally because they don't like some of the stuff that I've said about trans ideology and how I disagree with it. But it's like, y'all, I'm not trying to make you conform to any gender. I'm completely nonconformist, not married, not having kids, not going to do that stuff. Trying to get into a masculine field, podcasting, it's like, come on. I'm not trying to make you do anything. I'm just saying, if you're clearly a man and you tell me to call you a woman, I can't do it. And I'm going to tell the truth about the terrible side effects of some of these medical procedures that people are getting, thinking that they have no bad side effects and they're just going to change them into a woman or a man. We're just not there with the technology yet. Look up the side effects of trans procedures. I don't even care about the gender issue. Put that aside. All right. Put aside the gender ideology issue. I'm just telling you, do your research. If you're going to get this stuff done to yourself, for God's sake, do the research as to what actually that looks like. Because I don't think it's what you think it is. And it's not going to fool most people. Not everybody can look like a Blair White. And I bet if I were standing next to Blair White in person, I might even, I don't know. But she is very beautiful, whatever, online. I don't know where I went off on that rant, but anyway, okay, really quick, what we're going to talk about, Zelensky Oscars. 2 things. The Zelensky video, I finally backed it up to the part from before where they got into the fight, Zelensky and Trump and Vance. Here, I'll take Blake Lively off here now. Okay. Because look, I had seen the clips that all of you had seen where they're going off on Zelensky, and there was a part of me that was like, look, I totally understand the frustrations with Zelensky, and I have supported people like Tulsi Gabbard and speaking out against the standard ideas and standard narrative with Russia and Ukraine and all of that, right? But like, I watched this and I was like, it just seems like they're, for theater's sake, they're just beating up on the guy. Like, okay, we've got the cameras in here. We want to show our constituents that we're standing up to this dude that they're pissed off at or whatever. And so we're just gonna let him have it. That's kind of what I was thinking. But then I finally got a chance to back it up a little, and I don't have time to do it here because like I said, I got to end the stream or whatever. But if you go and if you back it up, and I got this, by the way, from Jesse Waters, the Fox commentator, because my guy loves Jesse Waters, and he loves that show that he's on, The Five with Greg, whatever his name is. Anyway, so I get a lot of this stuff from my significant other as I'm like walking through the living room. But this is what they were talking about. If you back up the tape, so to speak, you can see that there's a point when things go awry. And because up to that point, Trump has been really cool and has even been like praising Zelensky, and they've been having this really amiable conversation, and everything's fine. But then there comes a point when Zelensky takes issue with something that Vance has said. Vance is trying to like give him like earnest like advice or whatever, and Zelensky says this sort of bitchy thing to him about, well, what would you suggest, or something like that. And he also then, when Vance tries to start talking, Zelensky starts interrupting him, and I'm like, okay, I can see this is where this went wrong. And because like at that moment you can see these guys are like, whoa, wait a minute, we're here, we've given you so much fucking money, dude, and our constituents are mad as hell about it. We campaigned on stopping the money flow to you. And so we're here meeting with you in good faith to try to keep this money train going to you, honestly. And you're going to come in here and then you're going to like act like this prissy bitch with us, basically. Like I think you could just see the moment it turned. And that was what Jesse Waters said on the Fox program which I understand you're getting a whole bias there too. But I'm just saying, he showed the tape and you can see, yeah, up to that point, oh yeah, this is our man. I love him. I think even Trump even said he loves Zelensky. Like they're just like, and then you can just see the moment it turns. Zelensky gets pissy with him or weird. So anyways, I don't know. I'm not smart enough to figure this whole thing out. And I just have to laugh at the people online who think that they're experts. My only thing is we just can't fucking afford it. We can't afford anything. We can't afford anything. People say, why you laugh? It's not funny. I did get some of those comments when I did the kind of the Blake Lively mashup with this. It's not funny. Well, yeah, life is a fucking horror show. Can I just say to my new viewers who don't understand why I'm laughing at something like this when we're talking about a war, all these people are dying. Yeah, life is a complete horror show. I am furious with God for putting us all here, and I don't know why so many of you choose to procreate and bring children into this hellscape. Is that good enough for you? Because that's what I really feel. You're the ones who are bringing people into this, telling me I don't take it seriously. Life is sad. Why are you laughing? Well, why are you bringing more people into this? You answer me that question, and then we'll come back onto why I'm laughing at this hellscape that we're living in. Okay, thanks. Last thing, speaking of hellscape, tonight's Oscars. Dude, I'm a very pessimistic person right now. I have to just keep it like it is barely contained. My pessimism, barely contained. Seeping out of my pores. The pessimism is seeping out of my pores. Okay, I was trying to find a good picture for Oscars. What do we got here? So I looked at the predictions, and it was saying that some movie that I've never heard of is going to win. Don't you hate that, dude? I thought that I was up on movies. Let me just ask you. I know I've ignored the chat for the whole thing. I think what I'll do next week is I'll have a session maybe starting the week where I just solely respond to chat comments and stuff. But here, there's just only so much time. We've already gone a little longer than I planned, and I wanted to get through several things. But let me ask you. Have y'all heard of this fucking movie, Anora? What the fuck is this? People are saying this movie's going to win. I never heard of it before. Anora? I don't know. I was looking at the predictions, and it's like, I'm thinking maybe The Brutalist, because I've been hearing about that. That looks like a really interesting movie or whatever. And then I see, no, it's probably going to be this Anora thing about a prostitute who marries a Russian oligarch's son. I was watching Bill Maher. I was watching Bill Maher last night with my significant other. Again, me just sort of passing through the living room most of the time and seeing this. And Bill Maher was commenting on why is it that so many Oscar-nominated films are about prostitutes, female prostitutes, because you don't often see, except for he pointed out John Voight in Midnight Cowboy, you don't often see movies about male prostitutes. But you constantly see movies about female prostitutes, and you constantly see these major upscale films that get lots of award nominations and lots of critical acclaim about female prostitutes. And I do find it, I have to say, I know nothing about this movie. It might be the most like inspiring, deep, intellectual, like earth-shattering, epiphantic movie you can imagine. So I do not know. I'm just now hearing about this fucking thing. But I get tired of seeing women depicted as prostitutes so much in movies. I know that's a slice of life. I've known actual escorts. I know that is a slice of life and I don't judge it. But like, what is this obsession with seeing women who are hookers on screen and then glorifying that as like, and this was their road to their destiny, you know, or whatever. I don't know. It's not always like that. I know it oftentimes the movies are very at the same time they're very dour and depressing in their depictions of these women's lives, but oftentimes these women are glamorized. Even going back to Jane Fonda in Clute, a lot of these upscale films like to glamorize female prostitution. And I don't know if that's just some male fantasy that, you know, here I'm going to sound like a feminist, but I'm just saying, like, I have to wonder if the fact that, yes, you still have mostly men making these films, I'm not trying to say sexist or whatever, but I'm just saying, like, I'm just like, what's up with that? With so many movies that get such critical acclaim about female prostitutes and kind of glorifying it or glamorizing it. Or I don't know, some of you on the right may say it's about sort of the destruction of our culture and basically promoting, you know, the same idea as the OnlyFans girl who's having sex with 1,000 men or 100 men or whatever it was, right? That these are ways in which the arts, so to speak, are trying to destroy the fabric of our moral fabric of our culture or whatever. Maybe so, I don't know, but I just get tired of seeing it. It's just like, I don't know, what are you trying to bring across here? So I don't know, maybe this movie is good or whatever, but I guess this is what I want to say. I have to wonder if there are a number of male filmmakers or screenwriters or whatever who are under the delusion that prostitutes enjoy their work. And so that's why it's sort of romanticized, because I can just guarantee you prostitutes do not enjoy their work. Okay? They enjoy the money if they're upscale escorts and the perks that come with it, and maybe the drugs that they get to do on their dates, which is kind of my sense of how things go. But no one who acts like they're liking the sex, or none of the strippers in the strip club who act like they like you really like you. And this is just this delusion that I think so many men unfortunately feed into when they go to a strip club. I don't have a thing with, I've been to strip clubs, I've hung out with guys, I've hung out with my guy at a strip club. I'm not judgy when it comes to morality stuff, sexual morality, but I just think that there's this kind of amusing sort of kind of ridiculous delusion that so many men are under, that sex workers enjoy what they're doing. They just don't. It's just an act for you. So I don't know, but whatever. I just will never understand the artist fascination with and promotion of the glamorous female prostitute. But anyways, last thing I want to talk about briefly is Timothy Chalamet. What is his name? I don't know what the fuck is his name, but Timothy Chalamet and Kylie Jenner. This is the only thing I want to bring up here. I thought this was funny. Look, part of me is impressed with him for sticking with this woman, even though it makes him a laughingstock with so many people, and he has to know that. And people like who, maybe he doesn't give a fuck. He's like, I'm rich, famous, I'm successful. I'm dating a billionaire who can take us all over the world in her fucking jet, you know. Haters, I don't give a shit, you know. That's probably how he feels. But on some level, he has to know that he gets a lot of like negative attention and comments, and that it kind of in some people's eyes devalues him a bit, that this is who he's not just having sex with, but actually like this is his woman. This is like his Siobhan Zillis, basically. And so like you look at this, you know, this would be like, well, I was going to say something unkind about Ashley St. Clair, but I'll let that go. But like the fact that, you know, I mean, he's not acting like he's ashamed of her. So I give him that. It's chivalrous. It's romantic. I should celebrate it. But I will say this. I saw a TikTok video going around, and y'all, I really tried to find it, but I couldn't find it. Maybe one of you will. You can watch it yourself. But there's a TikTok video going around of him at the Golden Globes. It might have been right here, actually. Yeah. So she's sitting next to Elle Fanning, who was in the movie with Chalamet, right? And at one point, as they're sitting there, Kylie has her lipstick out, and Kylie is putting on her, touching up her lipstick, right? Already had lipstick on, was touching it up, right? And Chalamet turns around, and he's got a smile on his face, but there's also kind of an irritation and a kind of insistence to what he's saying too. And you can read his lips, and what he's saying is basically, put the lipstick away. And then she does. And just a shade of frustration there, and it's sort of like, come on, I don't want to be seen as superficial. Come on, people already think you're superficial. Put that away. You don't need the lipstick. You know, just kind of like, come on. People are looking at us. People are taping us. Put the lipstick away. And it's just funny because several people pointed out how different this was to their appearance at their appearance at the Oscars. The Golden Globes, I guess, the year before, where they were just ooey gooey all over each other, right? And again, I'm not saying he was rude to her this time around or anything wrong, and obviously he's still crazy in love with the girl to be taking her everywhere and subjecting himself to some degree of like social ribbing. But the fact that that things had changed enough to where they're not like all over each other, but they're just sitting there, she's putting on her makeup, and he's like, put the lipstick away. It's just like, there's the relationship cycle for you, everyone. All right. I really appreciate Mr. Kardashian. That's funny. I really appreciate my mods today. So he's covered so many controversial things and different things. Vanessa, Laura B, thank you. Also, Rebel Bird, I see you there. And AJ, not here today, but he is often. So I appreciate him. And I see you, Neil Price, all of your kind comments. I have been seeing them. So I appreciate you. And yeah, everybody, hope you enjoyed this, and we'll talk later. Bye.